history always repeats itself. That's, I think, one of the lines that we always hear. So do you think that's true? Do you think history does repeat itself, or
I personally think I would be the first one to say, yeah, I think it probably does because even if you look at something as limited in history as like the Bible, and I don't mean like limited like in a bad way, I just mean like the Bible represents a certain time length of history in the past, you know? Even if you just look at that text, you see history repeating itself throughout that, time period, right? So,
yeah,
and then if you just know about history in general, I mean, how many wars have there been? I think just like common sense tells you like how many genocides have there been? Periods where some leader kind of took over, a dictator took over, or like Hitler, or just different like leaders who had too much power and the wrong ideas and committed genocide either by not giving people resources in their country or just flat out murdering them like Hitler did. I mean, a lot of the problems we see in society now that we think are new, turns out a lot of those there's still some problems like that in the past.
yeah. There's been
I mean,
pandemics before. I've heard that almost every 10 years there's some sort of recession happening.
right,
We had that in 2008. Beforehand we had that happen too, and it came a little bit late, but it's also intermixed with the pandemic. But we had a small recession too. History in some shape or form continues to repeat itself, right? Maybe it's in a different way or in a different presentation,
different
but it seems
culture.
to, yeah, it seems to have the same elements. We had the internet boom, then the social media boom, and now we're seeing an NFT boom. So it's internet one, two, and three, right? That we're
Oh,
seeing
yeah,
like a cycle, right? There's things in history that we see like, oh, innovation, how things are
yeah.
presented.
The Industrial Revolution, it spiked in a whole new, like, and then we have the technology revolution now with this, like you said, the cell phone, social media, like
Yeah.
spikes up, goes down, and now the technology spiking up now.
At the start of every century, we begin to have, you know,
A life,
a new technological innovation that
world.
reforms the whole world. Yeah,
Why though? Like, why do you think history repeats itself? Is it human nature?
I think that's what it is, and I was gonna mention it a little bit at the beginning, but
Yeah,
I think there's an essence for sure that it's inherent to humans. It's also evolved, right? So that's why I say, like, yes, history repeats itself, but it's presented in a different way because through culture and through beliefs, people change, and start morphing into different new ways of thinking, right? But at the end of it, there's that human essence that still remains within it. There's always rise and falls of civilizations. For example, Rome was one of the biggest empires of history, but it still came to be destroyed, you
fell.
know fell. Yeah, so it makes me think like, well, why did it fall, right? And I think that's something that we should be looking at right now, especially with countries having superpower countries right now, United States, Russia, big countries that you know can learn from past generations, right? At least to not repeat the same mistakes.
You think by now, after centuries, we learn from our mistakes, but it's like, why haven't we? And maybe it does tie back to human nature. What is human nature? Like Cain and Abel's the most extreme example, and that is a metaphor. Well, I'm not saying it's a metaphor like in the Bible, but I mean it could be used as a metaphor for things happening now because it's about the most. And Jordan Peterson talks about this. I don't want to steal credit, but like talks about how it's like about the most bitter and resentful. It's about resentment building up so much. One brother kills the other brother out of like jealousy and resentment. That can be
Yeah,
applied to, and that does repeat itself. I mean, it repeats itself all the time. Like
yeah,
murders, homicides, crimes of passion, school shootings that have been happening recently. That's
yeah,
a lot of them. People think are tied with resentment. The school shooters are resentful of like society, of other people who have
yeah.
what he doesn't, what they don't have. Mass shootings too. I mean, riots. Sometimes riots are I'm not trying to like group in the same category, but I'm trying to think of like examples of like resentment with the Cain and Abel story and how you could
Yeah.
apply that with human.
I think like what you're getting at is also the aspect of what it means to be a human, right?
Yeah.
We have social needs. We want to be accepted. We want to feel loved. And when people love us more than the other, maybe we get jealous.
Yeah.
Human things that actually happen. The emotional side, the physical side, the spiritual side. I think those three components are what create a human being, and supplying the needs for each one changes. But I think that's that's something that's necessary in each generation, in each generation that needs to be fulfilled in humans, whether that technology changes, whether